The observation deck offered the best view in the entire station. Young Kael pressed his blue-scaled hands against the transparent aluminum and watched the cargo ships drift past. He was only 7 years old, still small for a Thaxian, and this was his first time away from his home world. His father, Ambassador Vorn, stood behind him reviewing diplomatic documents on a holographic display. They were on Trading Station Epsilon-9, a massive structure that floated in neutral space between 3 different star systems. Thousands of species came here to trade, negotiate, and conduct business. Kael loved watching the ships. Each one was different. Some were sleek and fast. Others were huge and slow. His favorite was a Centaurian vessel that looked like a giant flower made of metal. Its petals opened and closed as it docked. "Papa, when can we go home?" Kael asked. Ambassador Vorn looked up from his work. His scales were darker than his son's, marked with the silver patterns of his diplomatic rank. "3 more days, little one. I have meetings with the Draxan Trade Consortium tomorrow, then the Uvarian Cultural Exchange the day after." Kael sighed. He missed home. He missed his mother. He missed his room with all his toys and books. But he understood his father's work was important. The Thaxian Republic depended on these trade agreements. "Can I go to the market level?" Kael asked. "Commander Schrick said there are vendors who sell crystals from 100 different worlds." Vorn hesitated. The station was generally safe, but it was also crowded and chaotic. Still, Kael had been cooped up in their quarters for 2 days. The boy needed some freedom. "Take your guards," Vorn said finally. "Stay with them at all times and be back before the evening meal." Kael's eyes lit up with joy. "Thank you, Papa." 2 security guards escorted Kael to the market level. Their names were Dren and Kala. They were both experienced soldiers, trained to protect diplomatic personnel. They wore light armor and carried energy weapons. The market level was incredible. Hundreds of stalls lined the wide corridors. Vendors from dozens of species sold everything imaginable. Exotic foods filled the air with strange smells. Colorful fabrics hung from displays. Jewelry sparkled under bright lights. Kael wandered from stall to stall with wonder in his eyes. He saw fruits that changed color when you touched them. He watched a craftsman shape metal with just his mind. He heard music played on instruments he had never seen before. At one stall, an old Vexian woman sold crystals. They came in every color, from deep purple to bright yellow. Some glowed with inner light, others seemed to contain tiny galaxies. "For you, young master," the vendor said with a kind smile. She handed him a small blue crystal. "A gift. It matches your beautiful scales." Kael thanked her politely. He held the crystal up to the light. It sparkled like captured starlight. Behind him, Dren and Kala stayed alert. Their eyes constantly scanned the crowd. They noticed every person who came too close, every hand that moved too quickly. That vigilance saved Kael's life. 3 figures moved through the crowd with purpose. They wore ordinary clothes, but Kala recognized the way they moved. Military training. Her hand moved to her weapon. "Dren," she said quietly. 9 o'clock, 3 targets approaching. Dren saw them too. He stepped closer to Kael. "Young master, we need to leave now." But it was too late. The attackers pulled out weapons. Screams erupted through the market. People scattered in every direction. Vendors abandoned their stalls. The crowded corridor became chaos. Dren threw himself in front of Kael. Energy bolts struck his armor. He fired back, hitting one attacker, but there were too many. More attackers appeared from different directions. This was coordinated, planned. Kala fought like a warrior from legend. She took down 2 attackers before they overwhelmed her. She died protecting the child she was sworn to guard. Dren lasted longer. Even wounded, he kept fighting. He killed 3 more attackers, but eventually they brought him down. His last act was to trigger his emergency beacon. Rough hands grabbed Kael. He screamed and kicked. He called for his father, but a chemical-soaked cloth covered his mouth and nose. The world went dark. When Kael woke up, he was in a small metal room. The walls were bare. A single light flickered overhead. He was lying on a hard bench. His head hurt. His scales felt dry and uncomfortable. He tried the door. Locked. He pounded on it with his small fists. "Let me out! Papa! Papa, help me!" Nobody came. Kael curled up on the bench. He was scared. Where was he? Where was his father? Where were Dren and Kala? He did not know that both guards were dead. He did not know that his kidnappers were members of the Red Spiral, a terrorist organization that opposed diplomatic relations between species. He did not know that he was no longer on the station. All he knew was that he was alone, and he wanted to go home. On Trading Station Epsilon-9, Ambassador Vorn stood in the security office. His face was a mask of controlled terror. Around him, station security scrambled to analyze what had happened. The market-level attack had been brutal and efficient. 8 attackers, all killed or captured, but they had accomplished their mission. Ambassador Vorn's son was gone. The station commander, a 4-armed Kelton named Merks, reviewed the security footage. They knew exactly where to strike. This was not random. Someone gave them your schedule. Vorn's hands shook. His son, his precious son, in the hands of terrorists. A communication came through, anonymous, untraceable. It showed Kael in a cell. The boy looked terrified but unharmed. Then a distorted voice spoke. Ambassador Vorn, you have pushed for increased cooperation between species. You have advocated for unified trade laws. This weakens our individual cultures. It destroys what makes each species unique. We are the Red Spiral. We fight to preserve separation and identity. Your son is safe, for now. Withdraw your support for the Unified Trade Initiative. Publicly denounce the integration policies. Do this within 48 hours or the boy dies. The transmission ended. Vorn collapsed into a chair. His entire world was crumbling. If he gave in to their demands, years of diplomatic progress would be destroyed. Countless species would suffer. But if he did not, they would kill his son. Commander Merks spoke carefully. We are assembling a rescue team, our best security personnel. We will find your son. How? Vorn asked desperately. You do not even know where he is. We tracked their ship. They fled to the scattered reaches. It is lawless space, but we have contacts there. We will find him. The scattered reaches. A region of space controlled by no government. Pirates, criminals, and terrorists hid among the asteroids and failed colonies. Finding one child there would be nearly impossible. An emergency diplomatic session was called. Representatives from 24 species gathered virtually to discuss the situation. Everyone expressed sympathy. Everyone condemned the terrorists, but nobody wanted to act. The Draxan representative said military action in the scattered reaches could destabilize the entire region. The Uvarians worried about setting a precedent of negotiating with terrorists. The Centaurians simply said they lacked the resources to help. Vorn listened to excuse after excuse. His son was dying while they debated political implications. Then a human spoke. Captain Elena Morrison represented Earth's diplomatic corps. Humans had only joined the galactic community 15 years ago. Most species still viewed them as primitives. Their technology was generations behind. Their military was small and outdated. Ambassador Vorn, Captain Morrison said, I have someone who might be able to help. The other diplomats actually laughed. A human? Help with a situation this complex? Captain Morrison ignored them. She looked directly at Vorn through the holographic display. I cannot promise success, but I can promise that we will try. Right now, today, not next week after we finish debating. Vorn stared at the human. She was young for a diplomat, with short dark hair and intense eyes. She looked sincere. Who? Vorn asked. Who do you have? A mechanic, Captain Morrison said. His name is Chen. He knows the scattered reaches better than anyone. He lived there for years. If anyone can find your son, he can. A mechanic, not even a soldier, just a mechanic. But what choice did Vorn have? Send him, Vorn said. Chen was not what anyone expected. He was 42 years old with graying hair and permanent grease stains under his fingernails. He ran a small repair shop on the lower levels of the trading station. He fixed broken ships, patched hull breaches, and kept dying engines running for traders who could not afford proper repairs. Most people walked past his shop without a second glance. The sign was faded. The door was dented. Inside, parts and tools covered every surface in organized chaos. But Chen had a secret. Before he became a mechanic, he'd been someone else, someone dangerous. Captain Morrison found him working on a Draxan freighter's plasma manifold. His arms were buried in the engine compartment. Sparks flew around him. Marcus, she said, I need you. He pulled himself out of the engine. Oil covered his face. He wiped it away with an already filthy rag. "Elena," he said with a tired smile, "I am retired, remember? A child has been taken, the son of the Thaxian ambassador, kidnapped by the Red Spiral. They have him somewhere in the scattered reaches." Marcus's smile disappeared. He set down his tools carefully. "The Red Spiral are extremists, fanatics. They will kill that boy whether the father gives in or not. They always do." "I know," Elena said. "That is why I need you. You know that region. You have contacts there. You can move through places where diplomatic ships would be destroyed on sight." Marcus looked at his hands. They were the hands of a mechanic now, but once they had been the hands of a soldier, a scout, a man who moved through hostile territory like a ghost. "I have been out of that life for 8 years, he said quietly. "I know, but a child needs help, and you are the only one who can provide it." Marcus thought about walking away. He had earned his retirement. He had done his time in dangerous places. He had earned the right to fix engines and live quietly. But he thought about a 7-year-old boy, scared and alone, waiting for someone to save him. He sighed. "Show me what you know." An hour later, Marcus stood in the security office studying all available information: the attack footage, the intercepted transmission, the tracking data showing the kidnapper's ship entering the scattered reaches near the vortex cluster. "That is Razor territory," Marcus said. "The Red Spiral has a base somewhere in that region. I heard rumors about it years ago, but never confirmed the location." "Can you find it?" Commander Merks asked. "Maybe. I know people who owe me favors, people who see things. But I need to go alone. Bringing a security team would attract too much attention." Ambassador Vorn stepped forward. His scales had lost their luster. He looked like he had aged 10 years. "Please," Vorn said, "save my son. I will give you anything. Money, resources, anything you need." Marcus shook his head. "I do not want payment. I just want to bring your boy home." He gathered supplies, not military gear. That would mark him as a target. Instead, he packed things a mechanic would carry: tools, spare parts, identification showing he was looking for salvage work. He also packed some items that were not typical for a mechanic: a compact plasma cutter that doubled as a weapon, medical supplies, a personal shield, generator, and a small device that could track Thaxian biosignatures. Captain Morrison walked him to his ship. It was old and battered, a human-made scout vessel that had seen better days. But Marcus had modified it extensively. The engines were twice as powerful as factory specifications. The hull had stealth plating. The sensors were military grade. "Be careful," Elena said. "The Red Spiral does not take prisoners. If they catch you, they will kill you." "They have to catch me first," Marcus said. "Why are you really doing this? You could have said no." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. 20 years ago, I had a nephew. His name was Tommy. He was 6 years old. Bright kid, loved building things with his hands. Pirates attacked the colony where he lived. By the time help arrived, it was too late. Tommy died scared and alone." He looked at Elena. His eyes were hard. "I could not save Tommy, but maybe I can save this boy. That has to count for something." Elena put her hand on his shoulder. "Good luck, old friend." Marcus climbed into his ship. The engines hummed to life. A moment later, he launched into space. The scattered reaches were exactly as Marcus remembered: dangerous, chaotic, and full of desperate people. He spent the first day just moving through the region. He stopped at salvage stations and trading posts. He asked quiet questions, heard rumors, pieced together information. The Red Spiral was careful, but they were not invisible. Someone had seen their ship. Someone else had heard about a child being held somewhere. Another person mentioned unusual activity near an abandoned mining station in the vortex cluster. Marcus followed the trail like a hunter tracking prey. On the second day, he visited an old contact, a Vexian information broker named Zex, who operated from a hidden station built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Zex was ancient, with cybernetic enhancements covering half his body. He traded in secrets and information. "Marcus Chen," Zex said with a raspy laugh. "I thought you were dead." "Not yet. I need information about the Red Spiral." "Dangerous question. They would kill me for answering." "You owe me, Zex. Remember the Helios incident?" Zex's mechanical eye flickered. He remembered. Marcus had saved his life during a deal gone wrong. That kind of debt was not forgotten in the scattered reaches. The red spiral has a base in the Vortex cluster, Zek said reluctantly, an old mining station called Orion 7. They have about 30 members there, heavily armed, security systems everywhere. Do they have the Thaxian boy? Yes, saw the feed myself. They are keeping him in the old administrative section, 3rd level. Security details? Zex pulled up schematics. The station was a fortress, guard rotations, sensors, automated defenses. Getting in would be nearly impossible. You're planning to go there alone? Zex asked. Yes? You are insane. Even if you get inside, you cannot fight 30 trained terrorists. Marcus smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. I do not plan to fight them. I plan to avoid them. He studied the schematics for hours. The station had been built decades ago for mining operations. It had multiple levels, ventilation systems, maintenance tunnels, places where a single person could move unseen. He found a weakness, an old exhaust port that led to the lower maintenance levels. The sensors there were older, easier to fool. Marcus spent another day preparing. He modified his tools. He practiced his approach. He memorized every corridor and room. Then he headed toward Orion 7. The station floated in the darkness like a dead thing. Lights flickered in some sections. Others were completely dark. Ships were docked at the main entrance. Guards patrolled the exterior in environmental suits. Marcus approached from the far side, engines at minimum power. His ship's stealth plating made him nearly invisible to sensors. He drifted past the patrols like a shadow. He found the exhaust port. It was small, barely large enough for his ship. He maneuvered carefully. One wrong move and he would alert the entire station. The port's outer door was sealed, but Marcus had anticipated that. He used his plasma cutter to burn through the lock mechanism. It took 20 minutes of careful work. Finally, the door opened. He flew his ship inside and sealed the door behind him. Now he was inside the station. Marcus put on an environmental suit and grabbed his equipment. The maintenance tunnels were dark and cramped, perfect for moving unseen. He activated his biosignature tracker. It immediately picked up a Thaxian life sign, 3rd level, just where Zek said it would be. Marcus moved through the tunnels like a ghost. He had done this before, many times in his previous life. He knew how to move silently, how to avoid detection, how to become invisible. He encountered his first obstacle at a junction. 2 guards stood at a checkpoint. They were bored, talking about sports, not paying attention. Marcus could have fought them, could have killed them quickly, but bodies would be discovered, alarms would sound. Instead, he waited. Eventually, one guard left to check another section. The other guard relaxed, pulled out a data pad, started watching something. Marcus slipped past him. The guard never knew he was there. He continued deeper into the station. Every step brought him closer to Kael. Every minute increased the danger. On the 3rd level, Marcus found the administrative section. It had been converted into living quarters and holding cells. Guards were everywhere here, more alert, more dangerous. Marcus hid in a ventilation shaft and observed. He counted 8 guards on this level. They rotated in shifts. Every 4 hours, they changed positions. But there was a pattern, a brief moment during shift change when one corridor was unguarded for exactly 90 seconds. Marcus waited for that moment. When it came, he moved. He dropped from the ventilation shaft and ran silently down the corridor. His tracker pointed to a specific door. The lock was electronic. Marcus pulled out a bypass device. It took 45 seconds to crack the code. The door opened. Inside was a small cell, and curled up on a bench, wearing a dirty diplomatic robe, was a small Thaxian boy. Kael looked up when the door opened. His eyes were red from crying. His scales were dull. He looked terrified. Then he saw Marcus, a human in a maintenance suit, covered in grease and grime, holding strange tools. To Kael, Marcus must have looked like another monster. "Please," Kael whispered in Galactic Common, "please do not hurt me." Marcus removed his helmet. He knelt down to Kael's level. He spoke softly in Thaxian. He had learned the language years ago during a diplomatic mission. "Kael, your father sent me. I'm going to take you home." Kael stared at him. "Papa sent you?" "Yes. My name is Marcus. I'm a friend. But we have to go now. Right now. Can you be very quiet?" Kael nodded quickly. He stood up on shaking legs. Marcus pulled out a small thermal blanket. This will hide your heat signature. Wrap it around yourself. Kael did as instructed. Marcus lifted the boy carefully. Kael was light, easy to carry. They moved back into the corridor. The shift change was over. Guards were back at their posts. Getting out would be harder than getting in. Marcus carried Kael toward the ventilation shaft. They were almost there when an alarm sounded. Red lights flashed. Sirens screamed. Someone had discovered the empty cell. "Hold on tight," Marcus told Kael. "Do not let go no matter what happens." Kael wrapped his arms around Marcus's neck. Guards poured into the corridor. They saw Marcus and started shooting. Energy bolts flew past them. Marcus activated his personal shield. It absorbed the first few shots. Then it overloaded and failed. He ran. Guards chased him. He turned a corner and found more guards waiting, trapped. Marcus set Kael down behind him. He pulled out his plasma cutter. "Stay behind me," he said. The guards advanced. There were 6 of them, all armed, all trained. Marcus was just a mechanic, an old man with grease-stained hands. But once he had been something else. He moved. The first guard never saw the attack coming. Marcus's plasma cutter sliced through his weapon and armor in one smooth motion. The second guard tried to shoot. Marcus deflected the shot with a tool he had modified as a shield. Then he struck back. The fight was brutal and fast. Marcus fought with efficiency born from decades of experience. Every move had purpose. Every attack was precise. 3 guards down, 4, 5. The 6th guard was better trained. He matched Marcus move for move. They fought across the corridor. Metal rang against metal. Then Marcus did something unexpected. He threw a handful of metal scraps into the air. The guard instinctively looked up. Marcus struck. The guard fell. But more guards were coming. Marcus could hear them. Dozens of horrors, footsteps. They were going to be overwhelmed. He grabbed Kael. "New plan, we run." They ran through the corridors. Guards chased them. Energy bolts exploded around them. Marcus's shoulder got hit. Pain burned through him, but he kept moving. They reached a dead end. A blast door sealed the corridor. Behind them, guards were closing in. Kael started crying. I'm sorry you have to die because of me." Marcus looked at the boy. Then he smiled. "Who said anything about dying?" He pulled out his plasma cutter. He cut through the blast door's control panel. Sparks flew. The door malfunctioned and opened. They fell through into a cargo bay. Marcus's ship was on the other side of the station, but there were other ships here. Red spiral vessels. Smaller craft used for raids. "Can you fly?" Marcus asked Kael. The boy shook his head. "Then hold on. This is going to be rough." Marcus ran to the nearest ship. He broke the lock and climbed inside with Kael. The controls were alien, but the principles were the same. He hot-wired the ignition. The ship's engines roared to life. Guards poured into the cargo bay. They started shooting at the ship. Marcus did not wait. He launched. The ship crashed through the bay doors. Alarms screamed. The entire station went into lockdown, but they were outside now, in open space. Marcus pushed the engines to maximum. The ship was not designed for this kind of speed. It shook and groaned in protest. Behind them, red spiral fighters launched. 6 ships, all faster and better armed. Marcus dodged and weaved through the vortex cluster. He used asteroids for cover. He flew through narrow spaces where larger ships could not follow, but they were still outnumbered and outgunned. One fighter got a lock on them. It fired. The shot hit their engine. Warning lights flashed. The ship was dying. "We are not going to make it," Kael said. He sounded strangely calm. "Thank you for trying." Marcus looked at the boy. Then he made a decision. He activated the ship's emergency beacon. Then he programmed the autopilot to head toward a nearby nebula at maximum speed. "Get in the escape pod," Marcus told Kael. "What about you?" "I will hold them off. The pod will get you to safety. Someone will find you." "No," Kael grabbed Marcus's arm. "I do not want you to die." Marcus gently removed the boy's hand. "Your father is waiting for you. You have to go home. Tell him Marcus Chen kept his promise." He lifted Kael and placed him in the escape pod. Before the boy could protest, Marcus sealed the hatch and launched the pod. It shot away into the nebula. The small pod was almost impossible to detect. It would drift until someone found it. Marcus turned the dying ship around. He faced the pursuing fighters. He was out of weapons. His engines were failing. His shields were gone. But he could still do one last thing. He aimed directly at the lead fighter and activated what was left of his engines, ramming speed. The red spiral pilots panicked. They broke formation. Two fighters collided with each other, trying to avoid him. Marcus's ship struck the lead fighter. Both vessels exploded in a brilliant flash of light. In the escape pod, Kael screamed. He pressed his hands against the window. He watched the explosion grow smaller as the pod drifted away. "Marcus!" he cried. "Marcus!" But the human mechanic was gone. Kael floated in the darkness for 6 hours. The escape pod had basic life support, but no communication system. He was alone again. He cried for Marcus, for his father, for home. Then, sensors detected something, a ship approaching. Kael was terrified. What if it was the red spiral? What if they found him? The ship docked with the escape pod. The hatch opened. Ambassador Vorn stood there. "Papa!" Kael threw himself into his father's arms. Vorn held his son and sobbed. He had received Marcus's emergency beacon signal. He had come as fast as possible. He had prayed he would not be too late. "You are safe," Vorn kept saying. "You are safe now." "Papa, I want to go home," Kael whispered. "We are going home, right now." But Kael pulled back. His eyes were full of tears. "Marcus saved me. A human named Marcus. He came alone. He fought everyone. He died so I could escape." Vorn's heart broke. The human mechanic, Captain Morrison's impossible hero. He had done it. He had saved Kael, and he had paid with his life. The news spread across the galaxy. A human mechanic had infiltrated a terrorist base alone, had rescued the ambassador's son, had sacrificed himself so the boy could live. The other species were shocked. A human, a primitive newcomer, had done what their advanced militaries feared to attempt. Captain Morrison stood before the Galactic Council. She spoke about Marcus Chen, about his bravery, about his sacrifice. "We humans are new here," she said. "Our technology is not as advanced. Our ships are not as fast. But we have something that some of you seem to have forgotten, the courage to do what is right, the willingness to risk everything for someone in need." Marcus Chen was not a soldier. He was just a mechanic. But when a child needed help, he did not hesitate. He did not debate. He did not make excuses. He acted. The council chambers were silent. "Humanity asks nothing in return for his sacrifice," Morrison continued. "We do not want political favors or trade agreements. We simply want you to remember. Remember that one man can make a difference. Remember that courage matters. Remember Marcus Chen." Ambassador Vorn requested permission to speak. The council granted it. He stood with Kael beside him. The boy held his father's hand tightly. "Marcus Chen gave me back my son," Vorn said. His voice shook with emotion. "He gave me back my world. He asked for no payment. He expected no reward. He simply did what he believed was right." Vorn looked at Captain Morrison. "Humanity has proven themselves to be more than worthy of a place among us. I propose that Earth be granted full membership in the Galactic Council. Furthermore, I propose that we establish the Marcus Chen Memorial Award to be given annually to individuals who show extraordinary courage in defense of others." The proposal was seconded. It passed unanimously. 3 weeks later, a memorial service was held on Trading Station Epsilon-9. Representatives from dozens of species attended. Marcus's repair shop had been turned into a memorial. His tools were preserved. His ship's nameplate was mounted on the wall. Captain Morrison gave a speech. She talked about Marcus's life, his service as a soldier, his retirement as a mechanic, his final mission. "Marcus told me once that he could not save his nephew," Morrison said. "That failure haunted him for 20 years. But in the end, he saved someone else's child. He proved that one person can make a difference, that past failures do not define us, that it is never too late to be a hero." Ambassador Vorn and Kael approached the memorial. Kael placed a blue crystal on the display, the same crystal the vendor had given him in the market. "This is for Marcus," Kael said. His voice was small but clear. "So he can have something beautiful to remember me by." The ceremony concluded. People dispersed, but Kael stayed. He stood in front of the memorial for a long time. His father stood beside him. He did not rush the boy. Finally, Kael spoke. "Papa, when I grow up, I want to be like Marcus." "What do you mean?" "Brave. Someone who helps people who need it. Someone who does not give up. Vorn put his hand on his son's shoulder. Then you will honor his memory perfectly. They walked away from the memorial together. Father and son, alive because one old mechanic had refused to let another child die alone and afraid. In the vastness of space, Marcus Chen's sacrifice echoed. His name became legend. Songs were written, stories were told. Children across 100 worlds learned about the human who gave everything to save one little boy. And on Earth, in a quiet ceremony, Marcus was posthumously awarded the highest honors his species could give. His name was added to the memorial wall of heroes. His service was remembered. But the greatest tribute was not medals or monuments. It was the small Thaxian boy who grew up determined to make a difference, who became an advocate for the helpless, who spent his life helping others. Kael never forgot the human with grease-stained hands who carried him to safety, who fought impossible odds, who sacrificed everything. Years later, when Kael had children of his own, he told them the story. About the day he was kidnapped, about being scared and alone, about the moment a human mechanic opened his cell door and said, "Your father sent me." Marcus Chen was not a great warrior, Kael would tell his children. He was not a diplomat or a leader. He was just a mechanic. But he was the bravest person I ever met. He taught me that heroes do not need titles or fame. They just need courage and compassion. And in Nanotia, the darkness of space somewhere among the stars, perhaps Marcus Chen's spirit smiled. He had failed to save his nephew, but he had saved Kael. And that small act of courage had changed the galaxy. One man, one mission, one child saved. It was enough.